Hello and welcome to the Storytelling with Pug podcast. We will, as always, start with a story.
Hello. I remember it's been many years ago. I wanted to be a lawyer. The question is, who did you want it to be when you were a kid? I remember walking into the courtroom in Poland, and I saw a friend of mine, my neighbor, who walked in, and there was silence. There was this eerie, voice of hushing people, and that kind of respect, that kind of that kind of respect for law. So I loved it. And at that time, I wanted to be a lawyer. So I spent 10 years of education to become one. University in Poland, university in the UK, and yeah, it was pretty good. I loved it, but 1 year of practice as a trained solicitor in the UK made me realize that I was chasing something that it wasn't really for me. I was walking around the office, this big open office with so many lawyers in their fancy suits, chasing documents, chasing cases, fast-paced environment. And I'm kind of, oh my God, what am I doing here? Have you ever felt like that? That you're in a place and you know that it's not your place. It's not the type of thing you want to do. And I asked myself, do I want to do this to the rest of my life? And the answer was no. And thank God, apart from doing actual soliciting, I'm also doing business development, a bit of networking on social media, in person as well, face-to-face networking. And every time I was around people, talking to people at the conferences, networking meetings, I felt, wow, this is for me. This is great. I feel great. So I started doing more of that, and actually I kept working for law firms, but my job was to bring business, was to build relationships, get to know people, and I was doing it on social media as well, and this is where I felt great. So and I kept networking, I kept building my personal brand, and it kept me to make another leap of faith to start my own business, and that's another story, which was pretty challenging. But yeah, I think the great part of it was to change, to embrace the change, that you don't feel that something is not working, you're not happy, you need to make a change in your life. And now I live as a digital nomad. I travel around the world. I'm currently in Spain, learning Spanish, meeting great people, but it wasn't always like that. So, and actually now I do what I love. I travel, I work remotely. I help people with social media, with networking, with building personal brand. But the great part of it was to embrace the change and finding out what you want to do. So the question is, what do you want to do in your life? And be brave. So I think that these are the lessons that I took during my journey. And even when you spend 5, 10, or 10 years like me, on education or building career, if you're not happy, just stop doing it. So that's I think one of the biggest outcomes of many of my stories. You're not happy, change things. Change. You can start doing it now.
I love that, Wojtek. It's a great message and a wonderful story. I can't wait to find out more about you. I'm going to ask you more questions about the story you just told and where that led to. But before we get into it, let's have a quick introduction to the podcast.
You're listening to Storytelling with Puck, the podcast designed to show the power of stories in life and in business. Stories connect us on a deeper level, which is why we'll be sharing, chatting about, and feeling the impact they have on every one of us. Your host, Stefano, is the founder of Puck Creations, and we work with your business to define a clear, consistent, relevant brand which stands out from the crowd. We use that brand to create content that makes your audience think, feel, and take action. Visit puckcreations.com to find out more.
Before you do that, I'd like you all to think about something. How visible are you? Not necessarily right at this moment, especially if you're listening in the bathroom, but in general, how easy is it for people to get to know you? How do you connect with people? One way is to ask questions, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with 2 questions. So, Wojtek Kolodziejczak, the first question is, how long will it take you to forgive me for the awful pronunciation of your name? And the second is, can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, done deal. It was a good attempt. It was a good attempt.
Thanks. I'll keep practicing. One day I'll get it right.
Yeah, I'm sure you can appreciate that. With our kind of not standard names. So
exactly.
So yeah, I'm a man of many hats. I used to be a lawyer. I'm a professional marketer, personal brand expert, or networking trainer. Many hats there. But first of all, I think I'm a decent human being who's helping others on the journey to get more visibility, get more business, and actually, it's also about living better. That's why I called the business Life Networker, because whenever you're not happy in your life, you can change that by changing your environment, by building meaningful relationship, not just in business, not just to get clients, but to be around people that are pushing you forward, that are motivating you. And all of a sudden you have so much better life, because all the people around you, they are just positive. They want to live better. So when I'm talking about networking or networking on social media, I'm talking about life networking. So you can build a relationship anywhere, everywhere. And yeah, that's what my life has been all about, life networking. So that's why Life Networker.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's interesting you talk about the idea of networking. Some people will hear the word networking and curl up into a little ball, hide away in a corner and think, I do not want to go to a networking meeting where everybody is handing me their business cards and telling me how great their business is. What you just explained there is something completely different. What you just explained there, as far as I can see, is the idea of simply building relationships. And yeah, of course, everyone has a bit of an agenda, but it's not really about forcing your agenda on people. Tell us a little bit more about that, because you explained it quite well in the essence of, look, it's about a life that you're building. But how does that then affect business later on? What does it do for your business?
Well, I will give you a quite recent example of building relationships and how does it affect the business. So when I came to Spain, I decided, all right, I like hiking. And one of the activities I was doing back in the UK was I was attending networkings, which is networking and hiking, walking. And my mentor, Will Kintish, he was organizing these walks for like 20 odd years. And it was great opportunity. Imagine group of 20 people walking together and having fun, talking to each other, getting to know each other, enjoying views, enjoying time together. So I thought, oh, I need to start doing it in Spain because I need to get to know people. I'm new here, and I like walking. So I started doing these networkings every 2 weeks. We started with 2 or 3 people. Last one, we had like 20 people in attendance, and we enjoyed really good hike of 5 hours, pretty intensive. But yeah, we had people from Spain, we had people from Poland, from Ukraine. And so, yeah, during the walk, I found out that one of the ladies that was walking with us, Patricia, she runs academy for copywriters. The academy is based in Poland, but she lives in Spain, and right. She was looking for a trainer who could help her community with LinkedIn, because they want to start getting more business on LinkedIn, build personal brand on LinkedIn. And after a bit of small talk, after a bit of conversation about, just to get to know each other, when she found out what I do, she was like, "Oh, would you be able, could you help me, and could you do that Zoom session for my community?" And I said, "Yeah, cool, I'll be happy to do that." And yeah, and I'm gonna do that presentation tomorrow, and it's paid, and I have opportunity to upsell as well. And imagine, it was just walk. It was just, it wasn't about business, but the business can come out of it. So many of you could, can hear me for the first time in your life, but hopefully we can connect on LinkedIn, or we can connect, I don't know, on other social media, Facebook or TikTok, and it starts here. So I remember years ago when I was working in a law firm, my boss asked me, "How come you're getting these old clients for wills and probate services?" And I say, "Hey, that's from sauna." I go to sauna every day before work, and this is where I meet loads of local British people, and the average age was about 60 plus. Initially they looked at me as a weirdo, Polish with some weird accent, but after a while we got to know each other, and then after a while they started to refer clients to me, and so yeah, you can do networking in the sauna, you can do networking everywhere. The whole thing is, you just need to be open, get to know the people, just be curious about other people. So yeah, it's amazing that when you open, when you start building relationship, and when you start doing live networking, your business will be affected too. And it's all about thinking about, all right, where are my ideal clients? So you can use social media. So if your clients are on LinkedIn, boom, start building relationships on LinkedIn. If your clients are on TikTok, boom, start recording videos. I know it sounds very simple. Obviously, there are some skills that you need to learn about social media, but the same is with real life networking. For example, in Spain, I'm learning how to play golf because my clients are playing golf. And at the same time,
I always say that the best and the biggest sales are always done on the golf course, and you're now moving in that direction. I really love what the whole premise of what you do, because it's something that I think most good salespeople will understand. They will realize the importance of building these relationships. But a lot of people, when they start a business, understandably, will go and think about what are the benefits of their product, which is important, of course, and what does it mean to the person that I'm trying to sell to? And then literally the only thing they'll do with anybody that they speak to is talk about the benefits of the product to that person. But as much as people need to know about that stuff, and it's vital that you understand what the benefits of your product are and you can explain it, if you get there too quickly, people don't want to listen and they don't care. But what I think you're explaining perfectly is if you already have a relationship, if people are already warm to you, then they're willing to hear what you have to say. And that's where you can then move on to the bits about explaining the benefits. So I think that's a perfect explanation. But one thing I was doing very carefully there was listening to what you were talking about, listening to your story about going into the sauna, listening to your story about working in a law firm and becoming the person who was able to bring in the wills and the probates customers and where that came from. The reason I wanted to repeat that back to you is because something I think that stands out, and you mentioned it in your explanation just now, and I've also seen on some of your social media posts, is that importance of listening. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, without listening, you're not respecting the other person. It's very hard to start relationship if you're not listening, and it's such a great tool. The empathic listening, just being curious, being and most of us, and I was there myself too. I had to learn. It's not a skill that we are born with. I used to be a bad listener. Someone is talking to me, and before that person finished the sentence, I was thinking about the answer. I was thinking about something that person mentioned, and I lost the track. So yes, I was really bad listener in the past, and active listening is such an important skill. And
explain, if you don't mind, explain a little bit more about what active listening is, and I'll maybe guide you in a little to what I believe some people think active listening is, which I think is incorrect, and then maybe you can explain what active listening actually is. So I think some people think active listening is nodding or saying yes during somebody else's or making murmurings and sounds while somebody else is speaking. And I know that is definitely not active listening. So what is active listening in reality?
Absolutely. Just nodding, and you probably had it many times that that person that you're talking to is pretending that is listening to you by nodding, but kind of completely lost the conversation. So it's active listening is crucial because you need to really listen. You need to focus with your body, with the understanding. And first of all, you need to allow the other person to finish the sentence. So when your mind is going on different tracks, you lost it already, because in many situations, people are thinking about what to answer. It's like in the school. You have I can feel it right now when I go to Spanish schools to learn Spanish, and I can see that majority of people are not listening to other people because they're thinking about what they're going to say. So this way, you listen to the track, you kind of you kind of losing the respect of the other person, and you're not getting the information. So, and sometimes the great answers, the great conversations are starting from great listening, great ideas, great aha moments. when you are focusing on the conversation, when you're focusing on the words that are said by the other person. And I call them aha moments because they are great openers. Someone is saying some information, some story, and then you can ask more questions to get more out of this story of the other person, and all of a sudden you have this flow, great energy about the conversation. And it's crucial in the relationship because majority of people, they like to talk about themselves. And if you allow them to talk, if you allow them to tell the story, it will be easier for you to get to know them, and they will feel great. And especially at the beginning of the relationship, it's important how you make the other people feel. So if you interrupt, someone is trying to tell a story, and all of a sudden, oh yes, I had something like that in the past. I'm like, shit, you just didn't allow me to finish. So think about how are you listening. So because like I said, I was a really bad listener in the past. I was interrupting people. I was thinking about the answer, and I was trapped in my mind with some thoughts, and all of a sudden there is no flow in the conversation. So that's definitely one of the biggest networking tools that you can use, which is great. When if you start using it properly, then it's going to be a game changer.
I agree, it's a game changer. I also think it takes practice and it takes time. You mentioned aha moments, and you also talked about the way other people feel. And I think for a lot of people, that will be an aha moment. Realizing that it's not just about listening to what people are saying. It's not just about picking up on particular details. It's about getting an understanding for the way people are saying things too. What's their body language like? How is their tone when they're speaking to you? Can you hear a slight drop off in their voice when they're getting towards the end of their sentence because maybe they're not sure if you're listening and they're trying to engage with you? Or can you hear an excitement as the story gets bigger and bolder and suddenly something's happened and you hear a crash and then bam, it all comes back down? I think that if you're truly listening for that, then the response that you have, I think, is better. And you can maybe, just like we're doing right now, you can maybe take that conversation into a slightly different direction, but then come back and do what I'm about to do, which is then ask a question around that moment. And if it's slightly veering off, that's fine, as long as you're clear that you haven't been thinking about veering off for 2 days. Or through the whole conversation, you're actually veering off because it's following on from what that person said. So, talking of that, what would you say from all of the conversations you've had? And this is a very big question, but what would you say is the biggest aha moment you think you've ever had, where you just went, oh, and suddenly something massive changed?
Oh, that's a good one. And if you look at our conversation today, it's completely different from what we planned. It's an example.
It is, yes.
And I think it's because of the flow of conversation. I think the most recent aha moment was when. With my partner, we travel a lot in a camper van. We have Volkswagen Transported converted into camper van, which allows us to sleep in the wild. So it was pretty dark. It was pretty dark in the Luxembourg forest, not too far from the city, and we found this forest. We kind of car park on the on the nearby the road in the middle of nowhere. And there were some other cars parked over there. And so we parked there, and we could see that there is a fire and a group of people there. And we're like, that looks a bit dodgy. We're first time in Luxembourg. But after 5 minutes, we are prepping to sleep in that part of the forest. And a French guy approached us and said, hey, if you want to join the fire, by all means, please come and join us. We're just having drinks and snacks. We are a group of camper van maniacs from different countries. So if you want to join us, join us. So we joined them. We had a great conversations, but one was really interesting because we spent time asking, hey, where are you from? What's your story? Why did you decide to live in a digital nomad way? So, this French guy was telling his story that he abandoned corporate lifestyle, and so I kept asking questions. So, what made you make that decision? And he said that he was overworked. He was not happy. He was earning big money, but it wasn't definitely for him. So I resonated with that quite a lot because it was very similar to my story. And when he said his story, I loved it. I had that aha moment. And it was because I was listening, I was asking questions, and I took time for all his story to sink in, and the emotions when he was saying how unhappy was he in this corporate life, in this commercialized world, and his happiness about his life now, that he can enjoy life. It was great. It was great, and I felt like I connected with this guy, and it was perfect example of a aha moment when you talk to someone, you both share stories, and you find this connection. And it's all because you talk to each other, you listen, you share, and it's not just sharing information about, oh, I'm from France, I'm from Poland, I do this, I do that. No, it's just sharing stories. And I think this is something that you do quite a lot, which is storytelling.
Yes,
telling stories. And I think that's been my theme of life too, asking what's your story, and that's how we started in that in that place. What's your story? And when you start asking other people what's your story, amazing things happen. You find out about emotions, struggle, challenges people went through. And all of a sudden, behind this lawyer, behind this engineer, behind this digital nomad or whoever it is, there is a great story. And there are ups and downs in our lives. And there are ups and downs in your life too. So when you start sharing your story, it will be much easier for you to resonate with you, to get to know you. And I think sharing stories helped me a lot on social media. When people are reading different stories from my past, from what's happening now, people like, oh, I had something like this before. Oh, I went through something like this before. So yeah, I encourage start sharing stories, because what story is one of the greatest questions you can ask the other people.
I completely agree with you, as you might expect, considering what this podcast is all about and how our business works. But something that I think really hits home when you talk about the slightly scary start, but much happier end to the campfire story, and meeting the group of people and resonating with this person's story is to resonate with somebody else's story. The details don't have to be the same. You don't have to have both been lawyers and then both struggled with the particular world of being a lawyer, and then gone off into a business development role and realized that actually you can do more than the business development within a company, etc. You could also have moments. Somebody might have even had a reverse journey. Somebody might have gone off and started their own business and struggled with their own business and thought, I'm really unhappy and this is too difficult. I can't keep up with it. I'm unable to get the help and the resources I need. I'm poor because I'm not earning enough money. And then maybe they saw an insight into an amazing small business which was willing to take them on because they recognized their skill sets, etc. And it's almost the opposite story, but the feelings are the same. The feelings of that unhappiness, needing to make a change, going and doing something different, you mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation today, taking that step into something different and making the change. And so that's, I think, what I really take from what you just explained, and the great story you just shared there, is what stories do for you is connect on a deeper level than details, connect on a deeper level than facts. They help you to empathize. They help you to see somebody else's shoes. And sometimes those shoes are very similar and sometimes they're completely different. But actually, what's important is that you can feel a lot of the same things and you can then connect with them. So I absolutely loved the way you explained that. And it leads me on to then asking, you've mentioned a few times about being a digital nomad. You've mentioned a few times about traveling. How did you, I guess, take the bold step of, you'd already set up your business, which I want to talk about a little bit more in detail later. But how did you take the bold step of thinking, actually, I don't have to be in one place for this, I can move around?
It was an interesting one because I always loved spending time outdoors.
Wait just a second. We're going to move around inside this podcast episode to remind you of Wojtek's wonderful stories. The man with the hats has been a lawyer, business development manager, social media manager, and business owner. He takes his business everywhere, and he really gets how to network. We're going to look at some of the challenges of setting up a business, how they're added to with travel, and how Wojtek can help you. There will of course be a story from Puck Creations, but before all of that, here's Andrew Thorpe teaching us something about the power of persuasion.
We're all in the persuasion business, whether that's pitching to a potential client, selling ourselves in a job interview, or convincing a teenager to tidy their room. How we frame our message and how we deliver it makes all the difference, and this is the theme of my podcast, Leaning Forward. I'm Andrew Thorpe, I'm a speaker, a trainer and a storyteller, and I'd love you to tune in to our latest episode.
You know, hikes, playing outside, but definitely spending time with nature. When I was a kiddo, my dad used to take me to a local big park with oak tree. And I remember my dad was teaching me how to do tree hugging. And I know it sounds weird, but I have great memories with my dad in the park, exercising, tree hugging, and kind of embracing energy from the nature. And I love it to this very day. And so when I was living in Manchester, I was always trying to go for this different type of hikes to spend some time outside. And with my partner, when we decided to do a bit of camping here and there, we decided to buy a camper van, and we bought one. And we started to. It's called wild camping in different parts. In Bala Lake in Wales, or Lake District in England, and many other places. And at some point we thought, listen, we can actually, we don't have office, we don't need one, because as an agency, we have people working with us in different countries, Poland and other ones. We have a team of copywriters, we have a team of graphic designers, and we all work remotely. And we were able to work during our trips. And then our friends moved to Spain, and they invited us to come along for 2 weeks. And it was at the beginning of the whole pandemic. And and instead of 2 weeks, we stayed 3.5 months. and because they had a villa with additional apartments, so we actually subrented from them. And during that time, obviously we had to comply with the lockdowns and everything. And what helped us was actually that we couldn't go back because of these regulations and flight restrictions and everything. But it made us realize that it doesn't matter where we are, we can work from anywhere. And actually, we love the idea of traveling here and there, working whenever you want. And as long as you have business prepared for it, and you have tools and you have a right team behind you, it's possible. And during this 3.5 months in Spain, we decided, hey, let's sell everything in the UK, and then try to put all your stuff in the camper van. So, and that's what we did. We got rid of and all of a sudden, I think the biggest thing was to live in a minimalistic way. So imagine that so much clutter that we had, so much unnecessary stuff that is, that's for tomorrow, or I will need it one day. So I think that was the biggest challenge, to sell stuff, to get rid of stuff that is basically gathering dust. Yeah. So yes, that's what we did. We sold all the big stuff, and we all our stuff was put in the car, and boom, there we go. So
it's bold, and it's a big move, and it's incredible how I guess serendipity might be the word. Maybe that's the wrong word for this particular situation, but the practice of being in Spain happened accidentally, but because of that initial moment, those initial 3.5 months, suddenly something clicked, something triggered. But I think the difference with you and a lot of people is that when it triggered, you decided to take action, and you did something about it, and you made the move. And understandably, a lot of people think, well, actually, I've got this to do. I don't want to get rid of all my stuff. I don't want to have a minimalist life. It's a very hard word to say. There's all of this stuff that goes through people's heads. And it's logical, and sometimes people are right to think in that way. And so it's not the life that you have isn't right for everyone else. But you took action. And I think that's a huge, huge point, is that you took action. And it seems to be a theme. You took action to go and study in the UK, which is a bold move in itself. You took action once you were studying in the UK and working in law to think, actually, it's not quite right for me. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to move across to business development. You took action then to move from business development to setting up your own business. And then you took action to set up your own business and to take that business away and to work abroad and have that combination of of work and balance. Now, I want to be really quiet for a few minutes here because I've got two questions, but they go one after another. So the first question is, you talked about struggles with setting up your business earlier. And so I want to find out more about what the struggles were and the difficulties were, the challenges were when you initially set up your business. And then secondly, based on that same theme of struggle, you didn't mention it as a struggle, but I imagine some people would see that there would be a struggle between living a digital nomad life, having a business, and trying to do all of the things that you want to do whilst moving around. You mentioned tools, etc., but how do you set up so that you're not constantly flailing, so that you're not constantly struggling to breathe when you're having a business and traveling at the same time? So off you go. Two questions. I'm going to stay quiet.
That's a good one. I remember when I started the business, the first year was tragic, mainly because I was working in a corporate setup with a team around me, and all of a sudden, when you start your own business, you're on your own. You don't have different departments. All of a sudden, I need to do the other parts of the business as well. So my main thing was to get clients through networking or social media. That's what I was, and I've been very good at. So that's still my main forte. Well, all of a sudden, I had to do a bit of bookkeeping. I had to do a bit of paperwork. I had to do a bit of planning, and all these things together. And I was struggling. And at the same time, my partner, my fiance, and my business partner, she left accountancy world. And my tendency was to, everything that I wasn't comfortable with, I was passing to her. So it was creating loads of arguments, problems, because she was getting annoyed with me passing all the dirty work to her. My excuse was like, come on, I'm bringing clients, this is my job, so I shouldn't do the other stuff. So this was one of the challenging times for us, because we all had to learn what things we do within business, and the important thing was to create processes, to bring on board other professionals, people that we work with, to help us, because now we are a team of 8 people. When we started, it was just me and her, and that was really, really, really tough. And all of a sudden, before, when I was working for a law firm, you have a salary paid monthly, and you don't have to worry about the money. When you're starting your business, all of a sudden you need to think about the money, because when I was employed by the law firm, I had a budget for the costs, so I could travel, I could network, I could spend on the trains and other stuff. And when you have your own business, you need to look, and it's like, okay, all right, okay, I cannot afford to go there. I cannot afford to go to London, because if I pay my salary, I pay the cost for this and that, all of a sudden, like, oh shit, the money is not there. So I think these were the biggest challenges at the beginning of the journey. And something I had to learn is to learn different parts of the business. And once you get to know them, you can create processes around them, and then you can bring other people that they will do that part. But you need to know it as a business person. I had to learn these things. So even if I'm not great with numbers, I'm not great with bookkeeping, I had to learn how to do it. I had to learn how to create, how to prepare invoice, how to create processes. And I'm a visionary. I'm a person preparing the vision, preparing the plans. So whenever I do something repetitive, I get very annoyed. So that was another challenge. So yeah. Now we have assistants. So we have people that are helping us within business. But we have to create these foundations for the business with the processes. So even if someone leaves your business, employee or contractor, you have a system that you can incorporate other people, new people that come on board. You have a training for them, and they follow the process. And it's and this way, after many years now, I can now say that we run business. Before, it was it was just trying to do business.
There's a key word there to explain the difference. Yeah,
absolutely. Going back to the second part of the question, which is about traveling and running the business. The crucial bit is you need to have the right processes in place again, because when you travel, you need to be prepared for everything. That when you go to a new place, there might not be internet, or the connection might be poor. So you need to have processes and safeguards in terms of softwares, in terms of the people that will cover for you if something goes bad, or you are all of a sudden cut off from the world. So I think that was so. We had to learn to prepare everything in advance. So when we do campaigns for our clients, when we create content, everything is done at least 1 month in advance.
right.
And everything is prepped with the softwares, with the processes, and you have people out there who know what they're doing. So for example, I'm in a position now where I can be, I don't know, a week in the wilderness with no internet, and I know that business will carry on without me. And I think this was one of when working remotely, for me, I think that was the greatest challenge, because at the beginning of the business, everything relies on you. And the great challenge is to make sure that the business can run without you. And my friend Michael Krajewski from London, I learned a lot from him. He runs steel fabrication business, and he learned that from Michael Gerber from the book E-Myth. So that was his mentor, who taught him how to stand back from the business, how to remove yourself from the business so it can work without you. And I think we have so many opportunities these days to work remotely, but if you want to travel and if you want to work as a digital nomad, you need to make sure that this business can carry on without you, because there will be situations where you have no internet, where the connection is lost, or you are lost somewhere, and or you don't have time to, or you won't be able to work. So so I think this is one of the biggest challenges. Otherwise, you're going to face situations where something will not be done, where you stuck somewhere. So yeah, I think that's really that's really important to have all that set up if you want to work fully remotely.
You're completely right. And there's also, I think, some big lessons to be learned from what you just said about leadership and management, because in some ways, it was a necessity for you to work that way. It was a necessity to be able to let go, to be able to let other people take over the role sometimes when you're not there, so that you could live the life you wanted to live. But actually, even if you are not a digital nomad, it's a really good thing if you can get other people to take on the work sometimes, and that you can step back and the business can run without you. I think you mentioned that your friend taught you those lessons, and it wasn't because he was a digital nomad, it's because he understood the benefits of that kind of leadership. And something popped into my head as you were talking, and it's a question that I think we should always be asking ourselves when we run a business is what if? What if X happens? What if Y happens? Not in a panicky way, not in a fear of what if the world crumbles and but in a realistic planning type of way. So it's this is our end goal, but there might be things that get in the way. So let's try and prepare for as many of those things as possible and make sure that we've got something set up to deal with any problems or any challenges that arise. So it sounds like you've got a very good way of running the business, and the fact that you can be away and that your business can run, I think is a sign of great leadership and great management. So when you're working with your clients, what you're, I guess, trying to get them to do is to be able to manage a very particular type of their business, which is on the social media side, and the LinkedIn side, and networking and communications and all of the stuff which got you into that world in the first place. So there's again a couple of questions I want to ask as we're coming towards the end of the recording, and those are, when you're speaking to your client, what are the first phases of the conversations that you're having with your clients about how to manage their setup? And secondly, because we don't want to give away all of the secrets, once you've gone through those first phases, how do they connect with you so that they can go to the second, third, and fourth phase, and so that you can work with them on their business and make sure that their communication is going as well as it can be?
I think the biggest issue at the beginning is because we help professionals on social media, and a big part of it is to actually being out there. So the biggest issue is actually overcoming imposter syndrome, and I think this is the biggest one. People being afraid, fear of rejection, fear of failure. I think these are the biggest challenges that we have to overcome with our clients. So I'll give you an example. One of our clients, when she came to us, she is a financial advisor, specialized in mortgages, protection, all that kind of insurance. And because a lot of our clients are FCA regulated, we did some campaign with FCA as well, and as well, you have professional side, lawyers, financial advisors, and these fears are even more multiplicated because they're afraid, what the client's going to say if they see them failing on social media, if they see them making a video and it's not a great impression. So, so when Dorothy came to us, the previous marketing company decided, hey, let's do videos. So they recorded videos. They put camera in front of her, and they wanted to record hours of videos. But the thing is, she didn't feel right. She didn't feel comfortable with making videos. She didn't feel comfortable with being out there on social media in the first place. And the most important thing that you need to do before you go on social media, before you go out with videos, you need to make sure that you feel right. So that's what we do for our clients. And the biggest thing for any type of professional, whether you are cleaner, whether you are employee who wants to start social media to get ahead of your career, or you want to build your following on social media as an employee, or you run your own business. The first bit is self-acceptance and going through imposter syndrome, and it's hard. And it's hard because there are so many people out there, and you may think, oh, they know more than I do. They have more experience, and we start to compare ourselves with others. And the thing that you need to get in mind, especially when it comes to content, when you have professionals sharing content on social media, their expertise, they're afraid, oh, I only have 3 years of experience. I mean, for people who are starting in your area, your 3 years of experience is massive.
Yeah.
Even if you have 1 year experience, that's still more than people who are starting. So my advice to my clients or anyone is start where you are. Start sharing what you have. Start sharing your stories and start doing it now. Doing this step one is the most difficult thing. And think about people who are a couple of steps behind you, and they need your advice. They need your insight. And the fact that you at the beginning of your journey, or you don't have that much experience as the other experts in your field, is actually better because you can better resonate with people at the beginning of the journey. So think about people who are a couple of steps behind you. Don't compare yourself with other experts. Just start sharing your stories. Start sharing your working culture on social media, and that's a great start. So every time we start with a new client, we need to do a bit of coaching to prepare them to be ready for social media, because otherwise it's gonna sound, it's not gonna be you. Many times, and you probably heard about companies that are on social media, but their content is not personal. It's the same knowledge on the internet. And you have companies who are afraid to put a picture of a person behind the business because they want to be professional. So they prefer to put the stock image rather than themselves. And there are many reasons behind it. So it all starts in our head. It all starts here. And it takes great courage to start showing yourself, showing your story out there. But when you start doing it, all of a sudden it will be much easier to connect with you and your business. So that's how important it is to show your true self out there. And it's the same. Networking and social media for me, it's very similar, because in the networking environment, you connect with people and you can share stories in a conversation. On social media, it's also relationship, which start with the video. We start with a picture or with a post, with the story in the post, or it could be an article on your blog. And you share a story, it's out there, someone read it, and that's the start of your relationship, because that person can connect with you on other social media, and then later on can send you an email or can send you a message on LinkedIn or on WhatsApp, whichever media it is. But think about it. I probably veered off a bit, eh?
No, you answered the question perfectly. So you explained, and this is the important thing about the reason that people need you, and this is why you start at that first phase of helping people to overcome, as you say, the fear. There are practicalities too, which we won't go into today, of how to work on social media well. which you've explained a little, but that's why people hire you to help with actually enacting those practicalities. But as you say, the starting point it comes from deeper than that, and I know that what you just explained then was the much less jargony way of saying that you're helping people to understand their brand, because all a brand really is understanding who you are. And once you understand who you are, who you're speaking to, how you want to speak to them, and the key things like why you're in business in the first place, then suddenly that's your base point, that's your foundation, right? And I mean, this is what we work on with our clients as well, so we're in the same space. But then once you've got that foundation, then suddenly everything else becomes easier, and all of the other stuff you do with social media is way easier because you've got a guide. You've got this foundation, as I've mentioned a few times, to move along with. So you definitely didn't veer off. You definitely answered the question, because I think you needed to say what you said to explain the answer to the question. But one follow-up from that is, as I mentioned, we can't explain everything on this podcast today, but you are able to explain it to clients when they come to you. So if they want to find out more about you, to have a discussion with you, to have that spark of the initial relationship with you, where can you be found?
Well, our website, lifenetworker.com, or my LinkedIn. So in this podcast, somewhere in the description.
Yeah, we'll put it on the show notes.
Yeah, the LinkedIn is perfect place to find me. There's loads of content. We started our TikTok journey as well. Well, TikTok is more personal, to be honest, to record our journey. Well, yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and if you type my name, you will find a picture of a guy in a hat, and
you're wearing a very nice hat today, I have to say.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I got 25 hats, by the way. So I'm a huge fan of hats, and yeah, they became part of my brand, but it wasn't the plan, actually. I just started wearing hats, and actually it was in Spain many years ago. I mean, my first journeys to Spain. And I remember my colleagues saying, "Yeah, you look very nice in a hat." So I started wearing hats, and then people started to remember me. Oh, lawyer in a hat, or social media.
Lawyer in a hat. That's brilliant.
Yeah, and so that's where hats are coming from, actually.
I absolutely love that. So, but maybe that'll be what we call this episode. I'm not sure it connects well enough, but lawyer in the hat. I absolutely love it, and I have loved every single second of this episode as well. Your stories are incredible. I think your way of explaining things is going to help a lot of people to understand. On a business level, yes, but also I think on a personal level, just how to connect a bit better, how to build relationships, and as you say, that can help in both life and in work. So I am genuinely appreciative, so grateful to you for coming on Storytelling with Puck. So thank you very, very much, and for all of our listeners out there who need support with networking, please go and find Wojtek. And I'll pronounce his name correctly eventually.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Great podcast. So definitely, if you're listening to this podcast the first time, definitely go back to the previous ones, because yeah, it's really worth it.
Thank you. That's much appreciated. Okay, take care, everybody. We will, as always, end with a story from Puck Creations. He always saw it from a different angle, my dedicated, encouraging fan. A loss was a win, as I could do it again, my slightly deluded fan. Going round in circles and he'd just turn his head, my funny little curious fan. Happy in the shed, even kicked off the bed, my accommodating loving fan.
How could I live without the support he gives, with a cone for a head and a third paw limp? The only fan I spend all my time with is my hairy, barking, lopsided fan.
You've just been listening to an episode of the Storytelling with Puck podcast. Your support keeps our podcast going, so please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen. Subscribe to keep up to date with the latest episodes, and never forget the importance of sharing your stories.